Welcome to Semi-Pro Tech and Gear. My name is Jeff, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the NuPhy Halo96. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be my very first tech gear review video, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about the NuPhy Halo96, the brand new 96% 99 key regular / high profile keyboard from NuPhy. As you can tell, this is not an unboxing video because this is already out of the box. I've been using this for about 4 or 5 days now as my regular daily driver keyboard for my 9 to 5 work from home job. My previous daily driver keyboard was a custom built Keychron Q5, and I'm gonna do a comparison video where I talk about more specific differences and similarities between the Q5 and the Halo96, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to be notified when that video comes out. At the end of this video, I will also do a sort of a mini preview of that comparison. I at least want to tell you the size dimensions comparison because the layout's just a little bit different between the Q5 and the Halo96. All right, first let's talk about the basics of the build quality and the dimensions. This, of course, is a 96% 10-key ANSI layout, and there is no spacing at all between the arrow keys, the number pad, and the main section of the keyboard, and that's where some of that comparison to the Q5 will come in later. As far as the case materials, the top is aluminum and the base is ABS plastic. The base does have 2 position feet, so you can get a total of 3 different angles out of this, 3 different total heights between the flat, the small feet, and the big feet. NuPhy has also increased the insulation that they put inside the keyboard. There is silicone insulation built into the PCB as well as the bottom of the inside of the case, and there's even some silicone insulation in the space bar, which they now are calling the ghost bar because of how that insulation has dampened the sound. And of course, there will be a sound test later in the video where you can hear how this one sounds. The dimensions of this are 14.8 inches by 5.3 inches by 1.6 inches tall at the back, and I will put those measurements in millimeters up on the screen. The weight comes in at 3.28 pounds or 1,488 grams. So it is a pretty hefty weight, and that means it's not very portable, but also it's a 96%, so I don't think you were gonna carry it around in your backpack anyway. And the colors available in this are ionic white and also black, but even the black option does have some white colored keycaps as part of the color scheme. I'll show you an example of that on the screen. Now in the box, NuPhy also includes a color matched USB-C to USB-A cable if you want to run this over the wired connection instead of one of the 2 wireless options. And they also provide 18 extra keycaps in a couple different color options and 7 additional switches, some of the other switches that they offer for the Halo96, as well as a keycap and switch puller. Personally, this is a detail I really appreciate, sending the extra switches, because just in case you are not happy with the switches that you chose, which I chose Gateron G Pro Brown 2.0 switches for my Halo96. If I wasn't happy with those, I like the fact that they've given me the ability to test out a couple other switches before buying more. And speaking of switches, there are 6 options that you can order in your Halo96. I think at the time of filming this, at least a couple of them are currently in sold out status, but they should be back at some point. So that includes the Gateron G Pro 2.0 brown and red switches, as well as Gateron Baby Kangaroo, Baby Raccoon, and then the NuPhy collaboration switches Night Breeze and Rose Glacier. And NuPhy has all of the important specs for those switches on their site, so I definitely recommend checking those out if you're not sure what the specs are of those different switch options before you decide which ones that you want. And of course, as I mentioned a little bit later, I'll do a sound test so you can hear the G Pro Brown 2.0s in this keyboard. The Halo96 is compatible with Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS, and offers connectivity over Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz wireless, as well as the wired USB-C connection. It also features dedicated toggle switches for switching between Mac and Windows OS layouts, as well as a connectivity switch between off, wireless, and wired. And another interesting feature is that NuPhy has put the 2.4 gigahertz wireless connector right in the actual keyboard itself. It actually is on the right top corner in this little slot, and it's held in there by a magnet. So if you don't use it, you can keep it in there and you won't lose it, which I think is a nice touch. The keycaps that it comes with are a NuPhy profile that to me looks similar to an OEM profile, but of course I could be wrong on that. And speaking of the keycaps, they are a PBT double shot keycap, which I find to have a nice thickness and a nice solid feel. Overall, I think this is a nice set of keycaps that it comes with, but of course, if you're not happy with them, any Cherry MX profile keycaps should fit on here, and they may actually even reduce the height just a little bit. Now, as for the polling rate on the connectivity options, you are going to want to use the wired connection if you're using this keyboard for any type of gaming situation, because the Bluetooth option is polling at 125 hertz and the 2.4 gigahertz option polling rate is 500 hertz. I could not find any specs on the polling rate for the wired connection, but it's definitely going to be faster than the two wireless options. If you do use one of the wireless options, this has the same 4,000 milliamp hour battery that the Halo 75 and 60 have, and NuPhy states that you get the same 48-hour battery life if you're using the RGB lighting, and 240 hours if you are not using any of the RGBs in wireless mode. All right, so a little bit of my opinion so far on this, then we'll talk about the RGBs, we'll do the sound test, and a real quick comparison to the dimensions of the Keychron Q5. So far, I'm enjoying typing on this keyboard as my daily driver for my work from home job, but I do have just a couple of concerns. First of all, this is supposed to be a keyboard that you can customize. It is hot swappable. As I mentioned earlier, you have all the different switch options, and you are supposed to be able to remap keys to your liking using NuPhy's console software. And that there is one of my concerns. This keyboard is not VIA compatible, so you can't use sort of the universal standard software for remapping the keys. In addition to that, currently NuPhy's console is only available for Windows, not available for Mac, which is kind of strange to me because NuPhy even ships their keyboards with Mac keys on them already. Normally the rest of the world kind of operates the other way around. Everything seems to ship with Windows keys and you have to replace them with your Mac keys if you're a Mac user. But NuPhy seems to recognize that maybe their customer base has a lot of Mac users. However, their customization software to remap the keys only works on Windows. So I'm really not sure what's going on there. And in addition to that, even if you have a Windows machine to connect this to do your remapping if you want to, the feedback that I've been able to find online from users about NuPhy's console software to remap has not been great, especially what I've seen on some Reddit feeds talking about experiences using NuPhy console to try and remap, and I've not been able to find any indication that they're planning on releasing it for Mac. I hope they are planning on releasing it for Mac and making improvements to the software, because my second concern is probably more specific to me as an end user of this keyboard. I don't really have any big problems with the sort of cramped 96% layout that we have here, where the arrow keys are very, very smushed together with the rest of the number pad and your main section of your keyboard. However, I would like to remap where the delete key is at the top of the keyboard. For some reason, as I am personally typing, I will be using the arrow keys to go up and down in my email and deleting emails, and I just don't like this little bit of stretch that I have to do here. So what I would like to do is remap this delete key to one of the keys that I don't use that often, like the numlock key. So I'm pretty much stuck with this layout as is, unless they eventually release their console software for Mac, and then I can swap the position of those two keys. In general, like I said, I don't have a problem with the layout of the keys as far as my daily experience goes. The only thing I've done a couple times is I've hit the enter key by accident while trying to hit the up arrow key, and that's probably just me getting used to it because I am used to my Q5, which has a little bit of space between those keys. But otherwise, I have no real complaints, and I have really enjoyed the RGB lighting. So let's talk about that. NuPhy has gone all out on the RGB lighting on this keyboard. There is not only north-facing LEDs with RGB lighting and lots of different functions and brightness levels, they also have integrated an RGB ring around the outside that shows both outside on a transparent strip that goes around the outside of the keyboard, as well as shining sort of a halo around the perimeter of the keys themselves. There's also an indicator LED strip in the top left corner of the keyboard, which indicates the status of the keyboard from a connectivity standpoint. It also indicates when you've engaged caps lock, as well as when you've hit the minimum and maximum brightness levels. Now, scrolling through the different functions is easy. All you have to do is hold down the function key and then use the left arrow key to cycle through your different options. The right arrow key will cycle through color options of that same function. To change the halo light effect, that's the one on the inside, but around the perimeter, you hold down Function and H, and then use the left arrow for the style and the right arrow for the color. And to control the side LED light, that's the strip that goes around the outside, you hold down Function and the question mark, and then use the same thing, the left arrow key to change what the style is and the right arrow to change what the color is. And then a very similar combination for each one of those. So Function down will control the brightness down, Function up will control the brightness up of the main keys. Function and H together with up and down will do the brightness of the outside light, and Function and question mark will do the brightness level of the side light. I'll also show you some lower light footage of the RGBs in use so you can kind of get a fuller appreciation for just how nice the RGB lighting of this keyboard is. All right, now I promised a very quick comparison to the Keychron Q5 in terms of how do the dimensions stack up, because the Q5 has a little bit different layout. Keychron has opted for a little bit of spacing in between the numpad and the arrow keys, which I do appreciate in my typing experience, and that could just be because I'm used to it. It's been my daily driver for a few months, so it's possible that I think I like it because I'm used to it, but I just wanted you to be able to see size comparison-wise that either way, you're gonna wind up with roughly the same size keyboard. You just get a little bit of separation there, and from a length perspective, the extra half inch or so of space here between the numpad and the main keys actually translates over to, I think, the exact difference in overall width. The Q5 is just about a half inch wider than the Halo96, and that is because of that gap in between the keys. That's going to do it for my review of the Halo96. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the Semi-Pro Tech and Gear channel. I will leave you now with the sound test.